The practice of self-flagellation dates back to the middle of the 12th century and was started by religious sects called the Flagellants. Groups would march through European towns, whipping each other to atone for their sins and calling for others to do the same. After the Black Death, self-flagellation became so prominent that in 1348, Pope Clement VI condemned the practice, though it persisted in private spaces where flagellants would whip themselves in order to share more closely in the suffering of Christ. Over time, the practice faded into history, and though once very popular amongst most of the world's major religions, it is not something you would see in most religious communities today. However, there is one religious group that has taken up the practice. They have traded the whips for social media posts and no longer atone for their sins, but for the sins of their ancestors. There was a viral conversation that happened on social media a couple of weeks ago concerning men, women, and a bear. A creator from some social platform asked women if they were ever trapped in the woods for whatever reason, would they prefer to be with a strange man or with a bear? And most women chose the bear because feminism, okay? Now, because we are in the year 2024 and intersectionality is king, a creator by the name of White Women Whisperer on TikTok decided to remix the question and make it about race.
Hey, white women, I know y'all are getting real excited about the man versus bear conversation. I get it. But I just want us to sit in our hut of humility real quick and know that this is the same-ish thing as me asking, hey, black women, hey, you're at work and you're alone in a room. Who would you rather walk in right now? You don't know what it is, a white man or a white woman. You're in a conference room alone. You have to be with one or the other. Which one is it going to be? Now, be careful how you feel about this, because how did man feel when we picked bear, okay? All right, women, I just want us all to just be in our proper placement. I love the conversation. I just, you know what I'm here for.
So, a lot of the black women that saw her question responded and said that they would choose the white men. And then there were a lot of white women that were upset because black women said that they would choose the white men. And then there were a lot of white women who were upset at the other white women for being upset at the black women for choosing the white man. And that is what we're going to talk about today. I don't really want to focus so much on her question because I just do not have the energy for that. But I want to speak about the last group of white women that took the time out to participate in the practice of self-flagellation in order to basically tell the other white women to just relax. You're white. So we're going to look at a couple of videos that I grabbed from TikTok, and then we're going to have a really nice extended conversation about intersectionality, about self-flagellation, about anti-whiteness, and about how absolutely ridiculous all of this is. So let us begin.
Because it's a genuine question for black women. And all of the black women coming forward with their experiences are now having to debate with a white woman on an experience that a white woman can never fully understand because she's white. Because her white privilege has protected her whole life. And so white women, this is for you. You guys are talking on a topic and saying that the topic in and of itself is racist, but it's not. What you're saying and the comments that you're saying to the question actually are racist. And here's the thing. With white privilege comes white fragility, and you're showing it with your comments and you're arguing on true experiences that black women have had. And if you don't believe in white privilege, then I'm sorry, you have a lot of education to do on yourself. But just go ahead and read the book White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. Have you ever asked yourself that? Have you ever sat there and asked yourself, why is it so hard to talk about race with somebody of color? Why is that? Is it because of your white fragility and because you don't want to bring up a topic that might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable? But here's the thing, in order to learn, in order to do better, in order to be better, you have to get into the nitty-gritty of some very uncomfortable topics. And sometimes you have to do the research and the education that might make you uncomfortable. But in order to get past that uncomfortable feeling, you have to just push through it and listen and learn.
One thing I always find very interesting about this whole conversation that leftists like to have around race and anti-whiteness and all of that fun stuff is that they want people to participate in the conversation, right? So they want to bring all the racist white people into the conversation so that they can address their inherent biases and their underlying racist perception of other people. But the moment when a white person say, hey, I don't think this applies to me, okay? I just feel like what you're saying is actually more racist than you think it is, and I feel like maybe you're missing something. They are immediately told to shut up and listen. So it's like you want people to participate in the conversation, but only in the framework that you want that conversation to be held. So it's like, are you guys actually wanting to have a real and honest and transparent conversation, or do you just want to, stuff things down people's throat until they choke on your BS? Another thing is, I really genuinely hate the term white privilege. The main reason I don't like white privilege is because I don't see anyone in this country more privileged than me, especially just based on the color of my skin and the color of their skin. So whenever I see a white person say that they believe in white privilege, in my mind, you will always see me as less than you, no matter what I do. So I could become the world's most renowned scientist. I can accomplish so much, but in your mind, in your ideological frame of mine, you will always see me as less than you, which means that I actually cannot trust you, because I would then assume in our interaction, say if we're in a relationship or a friendship or anything of that sort, you are never really going to be your genuine self around me, because you're going to try to at every point undercut this white privilege that you have decided that you have. So I can't really have a true and honest and genuine and intimate relationship with you, because in my mind, because you think that you're more privileged than me, and because of that you have to be constantly decentering yourself or taking up less space to give me more space. In my mind, I don't really know who you are, because to be quite honest, I would rather deal with like a white person that's a complete prick, as long as I know that that's who they genuinely are. But if you are being nice to me in this effort to combat this implicit bias that you claim to have, then like, who are you? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really help, okay? So that's one video. Let's move on to the next.
Sound like a hot take, but I feel like the internet's obsession with uniqueness is causing legitimate brain rot in some people. There's no reason why something like mental illness, for example, should be turned into this commodity where you like get internet points or social currency by being different. It's like by trying to break this stigma, we've just come full circle where now nobody knows what the hell any of these words actually mean. So when you explain what a panic attack is, people are like, oh, like that's like actually really scary. Not something I just experienced when I couldn't get Taylor Swift tickets. And I know this is going to piss some people off, so just brace yourself, but I see it the most in fellow white people, especially people that are like upper middle class. Look, I'm just going to say it. Whiteness gives us access to everything but oppression. That's the one thing we can't colonize. So what do? We turn oppression into social currency. Because we know if there's one thing we can do, it's make money off of something that doesn't belong to us. And before the people that grew up on a cul-de-sac start to get offended in my comments, actually listen to what I'm saying. Don't intentionally misconstrue it because you want to be oppressed. Just be happy and lucky you aren't.
In this video, this woman says that white women are trying to steal oppression so that they can use it as currency. First of all, oppression is currency, because in leftist world, one of the best things that you can do for yourself is be oppressed or see yourself as oppressed, because then you get to demand so much from other people around you, especially those who are seen as oppressors. So it's not that white women are trying to claim oppression, is that oppression is already claimed. Oppression is already currency. And that's exactly why you see these middle-aged white men who have whole families, wives and children, decide to transition and become transgender, because that is a marginalized, oppressed group. And in the world of modern day leftism, if you are oppressed, then there's certain privileges that you have. In all honesty, I feel like Black activists like White Women Whisperer are more interested in holding on to oppression so that they can have this gateway to narcissism and to some really just interesting self-righteous behavior, because the minute they give up that oppression, then they can't go around telling people what they should do, how they should act, how they should speak, what they should pay attention to. They lose all of that power. Okay, so this is the last video that I grabbed from TikTok. I thought this one was particularly interesting because it is a man speaking this time.
One thing that TikTok has taught me was something that a lesson that I really started to learn when I first got into public history 15 years ago, and really a couple of years ago was reinforced by my good friend and close collaborator Noel Bursey, who's a wonderful actor. That sometimes you just need to shut up and listen. It's creators like this that you need to listen to, that people like me need to listen to, because in trying to, you can try to help, you can try to be part of the solution, you can try, but you're just never quite going to totally get it. But people need to recognize, particularly white people, straight, white, cisgender guys, Ivy League assholes like me, need to shut up and listen, shut up and boost, shut up and learn.
This is why I always find the parallel between modern day leftism and religion so interesting, because even in the way that he's speaking, he's talking about, white straight males that are college grads. I forgot exactly what he said, but basically like people that are higher on the socioeconomic totem pole, that they are the ones that need to basically humble themselves and listen to others and do all this work and so on. And if you read, I think it's in the book of Matthew, I think it's chapter 6 or 7, it talks about the Beatitudes, it talks about meekness, and basically it's a whole diatribe of attitudes that you should have that resemble humility. How it says, the peacemakers, blessed are the peacemakers, blessed are the poor in hearts, Lord have mercy, I'm having trouble speaking. But all of these things, that's really about like humbling yourself and being meek. And I see the same desire in a lot of white leftists that really want to have this type of like false meekness about them. And they try to satisfy that by saying like, okay, I am going to pay penance for my accomplishments and for my skin color and for my inherent privilege by like lowering myself down in order to lift others up. It's so strange. About what he said about never understanding, or basically no matter what you do, you would never be able to fully comprehend the struggles of the oppressed. I think basically that's what he was trying to say. I don't get that, because in that case, then why try in the first place? If there's no end point, if there's no end game, if there's no point where enough is enough, where I have done the substantial amount of work, where I have researched and have all the knowledge needed to now be one of the good ones, or whatever the case may be, then why put myself through all of that trouble if I'm never ever going to get to a certain point? Which then brings me back to the parallel between religion and Christianity, because in Christianity, you kind of understand with your relationship with God that it is a lifelong journey, right? You never really reach to a certain point with God. You're constantly going from glory to glory, different levels, based on where you are in life. You experience different versions of your relationship with God. And it's almost in the same way where these people like, you're never actually going to reach there. You are going to be on this never-ending journey of self-sacrifice, of self-flagellation, of this really full sense of piety, in order to satisfy the God of intersectionality. So just to summarize this, I have a couple of extra points, or just some things I want to say here to end this off. This entire conversation causes compounded racism. First, you have the blacktivist who centers herself in the mind of every white person she meets. Then you have the anti-whiteness white liberals that, in a strange effort to pay penance for the sins of their ancestors, decenter themselves by centering themselves in the minds of every black person they meet. And lastly, you have the second group of anti-whiteness white liberals who feel as if they have studied the gospel of intersectional theory to the point where they can now teach others to be better and therefore more like them. It is an ecosystem of narcissism, self-righteousness, and false piety brought on by the absence of substantive religion in a post-religious secular society. Basically, all of these people are bored and in need of Jesus.